The Mercedes Maybach 6, the show car displayed at Pebble Beach and elsewhere, is clearly beautiful to most people's aesthetic sense. But what's interesting to me is that its beauty is because it harkens back to a prior era, a period in time when design was central, that we had the centric notion that when objects appeal to us on an emotional level, they are simply better. When effort was spent not only on the technology, on the innovation of the purely physical function, but on the form of that, on the factors that influence our innermost soul, the things that move us beyond the clinical, beyond the specification sheet. What is a shame is that design today has become so functional as to eclipse form in most instances, and certainly with cars we see it as that which reaches the production line tends to be vanilla, generic, almost indistinguishable except for a few arbitrary flares in the grills or in the taillights. That's not enough. When you look at the show cars, when you look at what happens when designers are free to mate technology with an expression of what has been central to moving us emotionally, to the connections of cars in the 1950s and the 1960s, you see what the liberation of design, when mated to the progression of technology, can deliver. Unfortunately, the practical side, the accountant's side, perhaps the COO side of many companies, limit what can come to market despite the outcry from the public of sheer ecstasy based on the beauty of the objects. So what I'd argue is why today are we defining beauty by the benchmark of years past? Why is it that our design aesthetic hasn't evolved the way that our technology has? Why are we stuck recycling the basic shapes and forms and function, in a sense, of the past in order to somehow tide us over to an era of something else? Why can't design today be as groundbreaking as it was in the 1950s or 1960s? Why can't the modern design today that is so beautiful not be reminiscent of what was so beautiful decades ago? Now the Maybach, what Mercedes has done and what other design houses have done within car companies when produced as show cars is astonishing. I'm not in any way arguing against that beauty. All I'm arguing for is a purely modern beauty. In other words, why can't designers be fully liberated to do what those in the 50s and 60s did, and before and somewhat after, but more so during that era, to create those iconic designs that could persist with mere tweaks to modernize for many decades to come. The same arguably applies to architecture, maybe to modern art, to music, etc. So from someone's mouth, from someone's heart, from someone's soul, who is moved perhaps more than many by the aesthetic, I'd simply ask that designers find their current voice. Don't abandon the past or the visual cues that were so moving, but find a voice that's uniquely today.